You're listening to the Weekend Sport Podcast with Jason Pine from News Talk ZB.
Next month, so basically September, New Zealand will compete at the FIFA Futsal World Cup for the very first time, having won the Oceania qualifying tournament back in October.
Oh, there's the play and there's the shot from Antamanov. He scores! Mike Antamanov with a play and a half right there. What a score for Mike Antamanov. His first goal for New Zealand has come at a hugely important time, and how well did he execute that play? It's an absolute heartbreaker for the Solomon Islands.
So New Zealand qualified, that's last October obviously 2023. The 2024 Futsal World Cup is underway from September 14 in Uzbekistan. Futsal Whites head coach is Marvin Eakins. He's named a squad of 14 players. 10 are based domestically, 4 of them are based internationally. Marvin Eakins is with us. Were there any tough choices you had to make, Marvin, to finalise your squad of 14?
Yeah, there's a group of 3 or 4 players that have missed out that were right on the edge, and they've kind of sacrificed a lot to give themselves the best opportunity to be involved. Unfortunately, with the World Cup, we can only take 14 players. Otherwise, it would have been nice to have brought them along and had, a bigger squad to choose from.
Tell us about the blend in your squad between youth and experienced players.
Yeah, there is quite a blend. A large chunk of the team that was around 4 years ago has generally moved on. With Dylan Manikin, the captain, still be involved, Stephen Ashby, and Mickey Malavuk, who was kind of a late surprise, I guess, this year, being the ripe age of 41. And then at the other end, we've got a plethora of young players, all under the age of kind of 25. And yeah, there's some exciting lads in there that I think will be keen to take their opportunity.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about Mickey because I had him late 30s, so 41, man, that's terrific. You clearly value the experience that he brings, but also are you confident that those 41-year-old legs will still be up to it?
No doubt. Mickey's the kind of guy, if you know him, that will be doing pull-ups in his kitchen. So he's got the body of an 18-year-old. So he's certainly looked after himself and been ready to go. But he's in a specialist position. He's in the pivot role as well. And he's got a few campaigns under his belt. So yeah, he's a good personality to have around the team.
How much has the game changed? I want to talk about the World Cup in a minute, but how much has the game changed since you became involved in it at the very top level?
It's been a good change, I think, for us. What we've found now is that a lot of the players are just dedicating their time fully to futsal, in the sense that they're not also trying to deliver on a football career as well, which is kind of how it was in the past. And that's pretty massive for some of these younger guys as well to make that call pretty early and try and pursue a career in futsal. And I think with that, we're starting to get people that are students of the game that are watching, learning all the time, and it's starting to flow into, I guess, the high performance end, because there is, underneath this group, I know there's a really good youth contingent of players that will kind of be biting at these players' heels if they don't keep applying themselves and keep pushing themselves.
So what does your crystal ball tell you? Does it tell you that in, 10 years, maybe even not that long, that there'll be futsal players who never play 11-a-side outside? I mean, I look at a guy like Dylan Manikin, and what he does on the grass in an 11-a-side environment. Do you think in the future it might be that guys and women just play futsal?
I think it'll have to be if the game really wants to kick on, but not until they're of a good age. I mean, when you're in those teenage years, you should be cracking on with all the different sports, right? And football being one of those. I think the big challenge that futsal will have is making sure that we can offer careers for our athletes, because it's, especially in the football game, you've got the opportunity of university scholarships in America and the opportunity or the vision of going pro in the Premier League, as we've seen recently. So things like that can be quite enticing. But I think what we're starting to see now is that there are a handful of guys, and there will be more, that are pushing overseas to try and ply their trade, make a little bit of income, hopefully, and eventually that becomes a little bit more lucrative.
Let's look at the World Cup then. You're in a group with Spain, Kazakhstan and Libya. You need to finish top 2 or be one of the best third-placed finishers. How do you rate your chances of getting out of that group?
Well, 2 European teams with Spain and Kazakhstan makes life difficult. We have to be real. Spain will be trying to win the whole thing and be one of the favourites to do so. And Kazakhstan are a very, very strong side and have some unique tactics that we'll probably find a bit challenging once we get across there. Libya's a bit of an unknown. They kind of squeezed through, if I can say that, through their qualifying and upset Egypt when it mattered, and shows that I guess they've got something to them when it comes to dealing with pressure. But that's certainly our game we're targeting. It's the first one against Libya on the 15th. And I think if we can get a positive result there, then anything can happen in those games against Kazakhstan and Spain.
Will you have the opportunity, Marvin, for a decent build-up to the World Cup?
We're fortunate to have some games in Thailand in the lead-in, which will get us 4 games against some Asian opposition, which will be useful. We don't get many international games. I think every international sports team or athlete is always wanting more international games to test themselves, and we've certainly wanted that over the last few years to help us kind of build. So I think it's going to be important to challenge ourselves against the likes of Thailand, who are one of the strongest Asian teams, to kind of see how we could come across teams and styles that are similar to Libya.
And how special is it to be part of the first New Zealand side to go to a Futsal World Cup? I know the Futsal Ferns, the women, have just in the last little while qualified for their first one in the Philippines next year. But how cool is it to be the first New Zealand side to go to a men's Futsal World Cup?
Yeah, it's been, for some of us, it's been quite the journey. For myself, it's since 2008. I've been trying to get there, initially as a player and more recently as a coach. But even before me, our goalkeeper coach, Elias Billet, he was part of the 2014 that tried and missed out with Australia taking that one when they were still in the Oceania region. So it's been a heck of a ride with lots of heartbreak and lots of stories along the way. But I think in the background, what's been important in New Zealand is that there's been a lot of development, a lot of opportunities for kids to play and build up their hours playing the game. And I think that's kind of led to, it was a matter of time for us to finally qualify. And I think the guys know that generally, that there's a bigger picture here and how this could kick on futsal, I guess, to the next step locally. But there's also an element of these guys have put in a lot of mahi themselves and have deserved this opportunity. So we don't want them having the weight of the country too much on them, or the weight of futsal in the country. But I think it'll be in the back of all their minds.
Wonderful. Well, it's an exciting time for you, your support staff, and for these 14 players who are about to head off to the FIFA Futsal World Cup in Uzbekistan. Marvin, all the best, mate. Thanks for taking the time for a chat. Can't wait to see how it plays out for you.
Cheers, buddy.
Thanks, Marvin. Marvin Eakins there, coach of the Futsal Whites, our men's national futsal team. If you're unfamiliar with it, just think indoor football. That's basically what it is, but it is enormous. Absolutely enormous around the world, gaining in popularity in New Zealand as well. In fact, player numbers for indoor football, for futsal, are just going through the roof. And a lot of it is not club-based stuff, just a bunch of friends playing, on a Wednesday night in a social league or something like that. But then there are obviously elite pathways as well, and New Zealand football and football associations all around the world are taking it a lot more seriously because it is building their participation base. They basically align the two. Football in its normal sense, the outside version on grass or whatever it is, 11-a-side, futsal is becoming a huge part of the game here and all around the world. And the next World Cup for men next month, or starting on the 14th of September. Incidentally, our women, as I mentioned to Marvin Eakins there, have also qualified for the World Cup for the first time. In fact, it's the first ever Women's World Cup next year in the Philippines. I will cover that off on the show tomorrow.
For more from Weekend Sport with Jason Pine, listen live to News Talk ZB weekends from midday or follow the podcast on iHeartRadio.